My sister said I was too stupid to run the family business, so I watched her face as Dad's lawyer read that he left it all to me. For 15 years, Deanna had positioned herself as the heir apparent. She had the MBA from Wharton. She'd worked alongside Dad since she was 22, learning every aspect of the distribution company he'd built from nothing. Meanwhile, I'd dropped out of community college and bounced between retail jobs. At family dinners, she'd mention quarterly earnings while I refilled wine glasses. Someone has to think about the future, she'd say, glancing at me. Not everyone has what it takes. When Dad got sick, she went into overdrive. She attended every board meeting, redesigned the company logo, started CCing herself on emails. Just preparing, she told Mom. There can't be confusion about who's ready to lead. The will reading was Thursday. Deanna showed up in a navy power suit carrying a leather portfolio embossed with the company name. I wore jeans and the flannel shirt Dad gave me for Christmas. Mitchell, Dad's lawyer for 30 years, cleared his throat. To my daughter Deanna, I leave my personal effects and $500,000. Her smile was confident. To my daughter Wren, I leave controlling interest in Halstead Distribution, all company assets, and full authority over operations. The color drained from her face. That's a mistake. Dad promised me the company. Mitchell slid a letter across the table. Dad's handwriting. Deanna, you know the business inside and out. But Wren knows the people. She's been working the warehouse floor for 2 years, learning names, solving problems, earning trust. Leadership isn't about spreadsheets. It's about who workers will follow when things get hard. My hands shook. 2 years ago, after my latest retail job imploded, Dad called me into his office. I need someone I trust on the floor, he'd said. No title, no attention. Just watch, listen, and learn who keeps this place running. I'd shown up every day at 6 a.m. I learned to operate forklifts, manage inventory, handle truck drivers who'd been there longer than I'd been alive. When Jorge's son needed surgery, I helped him navigate insurance. When night shift almost walked out over unsafe conditions, I listened and brought solutions to Dad. He implemented every single one. This is insane, Deanna hissed. She doesn't have the education, experience, or connections. She'll destroy everything in 6 months. That night, my phone exploded. Texts from Deanna, voicemails from Mom begging me to reconsider. But the next morning, I drove to the warehouse. Raymond, who'd been there 34 years, nodded as I walked past. Your father knew what he was doing. By noon, I'd called a meeting with senior staff. Before I could speak, Deanna burst through the door. You think you can waltz in here and play CEO? These people will never respect you. She slammed a folder on the table. Inside were emails, financial records, contracts I didn't recognize. Deals Dad made that aren't exactly by the book. Agreements with distributors that bend regulations. Money moving through accounts the IRS would love to examine. The room went silent. She smiled, cold and triumphant. Sign over controlling interest to me, or I make sure federal investigators tear this place apart. Dad's legacy, these people's jobs, gone. All because you were too stupid to stay in your lane. I stared at the documents. Around the table sat people who'd worked here for decades. Jorge with 3 kids in college, Raymond 6 months from retirement. Then I noticed the email timestamps, all from the past 2 weeks, after Dad got sick. You set this up, I said slowly. These deals aren't Dad's. They're yours. Insurance in case he didn't leave you the company. Her hand tightened on the folder. Prove it. I looked at Raymond. He'd been Dad's right hand for 3 decades. Raymond, did Dad ever do business with Grayson Logistics? Never heard of them, Raymond said immediately. What about Premier Freight Solutions? He shook his head. Your father was loyal to the same 5 distributors for 20 years. Deanna's jaw clenched. He was exploring new partnerships. Not everything went through Raymond. Everything went through Raymond, I said. That was Dad's rule. No contract signed without Raymond's approval. Jorge leaned forward, studying the documents. These account numbers are wrong. We've never used First National for business banking. We've been with Commerce Trust since 1987. The folder in Deanna's hand trembled slightly. You don't understand how corporate finance works. There are legitimate reasons for multiple accounts. I'm sure there are, I said. Mitchell, can you verify whether Dad authorized any of these agreements? Mitchell adjusted his glasses, examining the papers. I handled all of your father's business contracts for 30 years. I've never seen these. He must have used someone else, Deanna insisted, but her voice had lost its edge. Dad never used anyone else, I said. You know that. You're the one who always complained about how stubborn he was with his routines. The room felt smaller. Everyone was staring at Deanna now, understanding dawning on their faces. You created fake deals, Jorge said quietly, to blackmail your own sister. That's absurd, Deanna snapped, but she was backing toward the door. The IRS doesn't investigate documents that don't exist, Raymond said, and federal investigators can't tear apart agreements that were never made. I stood up. You gambled that I wouldn't know the business well enough to spot the forgeries, that I'd be too scared to call your bluff. This isn't over, Deanna said. I'll fight this will. I'll prove you're incompetent. You'll leave, Mitchell interrupted. Now, before I report this attempted fraud to the authorities. Deanna looked around the room, searching for an ally. She found none. Finally, she grabbed the folder and stormed out. The door slammed behind her. Silence stretched for a long moment. Then Raymond chuckled. Your father would have loved that. The meeting continued. I had no idea what I was doing, but Raymond walked me through the quarterly reports. Jorge explained the distribution routes. Patricia from accounting showed me the real books, the ones that would make any auditor smile. By the end of the day, I understood why Dad had chosen me. It wasn't about spreadsheets or MBA programs. It was about knowing that Jorge's daughter was getting married in June, that Raymond's wife had died last year, and work was the only thing keeping him going. That night shift needed better lighting, and day shift needed better coffee. Over the next week, Deanna tried 3 more times to undermine me. She called our biggest clients, suggesting they might want to reconsider their contracts with new leadership. Every single one told her the same thing. They'd worked with the Halstead family for years, and they trusted us. She contacted board members, painting me as unqualified and dangerous. But the board had watched her antics during Dad's illness. They'd seen her redesigning logos while he was in hospice. They voted unanimously to support my leadership. She even went to Mom, sobbing about how unfair this all was, how Dad must have been confused at the end, how I'd manipulated him somehow. Mom called me that night. "Is it true?" she asked. "Did you work at the warehouse for 2 years without telling anyone?" Dad asked me to keep it quiet. Why? He wanted to see who I really was. Not the daughter who dropped out of college. Not the one who couldn't hold a retail job. Just me, without the baggage. Mom was quiet for a long time. "Your sister came over tonight wearing a $3,000 suit and carrying a designer bag. She spent an hour crying about losing her birthright." Another pause. Then I remembered something. "When you were 16, you spent an entire summer volunteering at that homeless shelter. Deanna made fun of you for wasting vacation time. You told her some things mattered more than resume building. I'd forgotten about that. Your father hadn't. He saw who you were long before you worked in that warehouse." That conversation shifted something. Mom started coming by the office, bringing lunch, asking about the business. She'd never been involved before. Dad had kept work and family separate. But now she wanted to understand what he'd built and why he'd entrusted it to me. 3 weeks into my tenure, the real challenge arrived. A major contract was up for renewal with Brennan Industries, our largest client. They represented 40% of our annual revenue. Losing them would be catastrophic. The meeting was scheduled for Tuesday at 2 p.m. I prepared for days, reviewing every detail of our partnership, every delivery route, every cost breakdown. Raymond helped me practice the presentation until I could recite it in my sleep. Monday night, I got a call from Brennan's VP of Operations, Douglas Brennan himself. "Miss Halstead, I wanted to give you a heads up. Your sister contacted me last week." My stomach dropped. "What did she say?" "She suggested we might be better served by working with her directly. Said she was planning to start her own distribution company and could offer us better rates." "I see. I'm calling to tell you that we're not interested. Your father was a man of integrity. He never missed a deadline in 18 years. His team knows our needs inside and out. Frankly, I don't care who runs the company as long as that standard continues." "It will," I promised. "Good, but I wanted you to know what you're dealing with. Your sister seems determined to sabotage you." After we hung up, I sat in Dad's office, my office now, staring at the photo on his desk. It showed him with Raymond, Jorge, and about 20 other employees at the company's 25th anniversary party. Everyone was laughing. Dad's arm was around Raymond's shoulders. That's when I understood the real test wasn't proving myself to the clients or the board. It was dealing with Deanna without destroying our family. The next morning, I called her. "What do you want?" she answered, her voice cold. "Breakfast, tomorrow. Just you and me. So you can gloat? So we can talk." She hung up without answering. But the next morning, she showed up at the diner I'd suggested. She was 15 minutes late, still wearing power suits like armor. I ordered coffee and waited. When she finally sat down, I slid an envelope across the table. "What's this?" "A job offer." She opened it slowly. Inside was a contract for VP of Business Development, a generous salary, and a clear delineation of responsibilities that didn't overlap with mine. "You're offering me a job at the company Dad left to you? I'm offering you a chance to use your MBA and your connections to grow what Dad built. You know the financial side inside and out. You have relationships with potential clients I don't even know exist. The company needs that expertise." "I don't need your pity," she said, but her hand stayed on the contract. "This isn't pity. It's smart business. You're brilliant at strategy and expansion. I'm good with people and operations. Together, we can make this company twice what Dad ever dreamed. You'd trust me after what I tried to do?" "No," I said honestly, "but I'm willing to work toward trust. Dad left me the company, but that doesn't mean I have to run it alone. He left you $500,000. You could start your own business, maybe even compete with us, or you could help me build on what he started." Deanna stared at the contract for a long time. "What makes you think I won't just use this position to undermine you? Because I know you loved him too, and I don't think you actually want to destroy what he spent his life building. I think you're hurt and angry and scared that maybe you weren't the daughter he needed you to be." Her eyes filled with tears. She didn't wipe them away. "I did everything right. Perfect grades, perfect school, perfect career path, and it still wasn't enough. He didn't need perfect," I said gently. "He needed real." She left without taking the contract. I didn't hear from her for 3 days. Then, on Friday afternoon, she walked into my office, set the signed contract on my desk, and said, "I want my own projects, no micromanaging, and if this doesn't work, I'm out. Deal. And I'm sorry. About the blackmail. About everything. I know. Working with Deanna was harder than I'd expected. She questioned every decision, challenged every strategy, and made it clear she thought she could do my job better. But she also brought in 2 major new clients in the first month, renegotiated supplier contracts that saved us $200,000 annually, and created a 5-year expansion plan that was actually brilliant. By the 6-month mark, we'd fallen into a rhythm. I handled the people and daily operations. She handled growth and finance. When we disagreed, we argued like sisters, but we figured it out. Raymond cornered me one day in the warehouse. "You know, when your father first told me his plan, I thought he was crazy. Bringing you in undercover, leaving you the company. I thought Deanna was the obvious choice. What changed your mind? She knows how to run a business. You know why businesses exist. Big difference." That difference showed up in unexpected ways. When Deanna wanted to cut costs by outsourcing night shift cleaning, I reminded her that Carla had worked for us for 12 years and supported her grandkids on that salary. We found other savings instead. When I wanted to give everyone a 10% raise, Deanna showed me the numbers and explained we'd have to cut benefits. We compromised on 5% raises and better healthcare. The real breakthrough came 8 months in. Deanna burst into my office. Actual excitement on her face for the first time since Dad died. I just got off the phone with Titan Manufacturing. They want to move all their East Coast distribution through us. It would triple our warehouse space requirements, add 40 new jobs, and increase revenue by 60%. That's huge, I said. What's the catch? We'd need to upgrade our entire logistics software system, hire a new IT team, and probably lease a second facility. Estimated startup cost is about $2.3 million. I pulled out the financial reports. We had the capital, barely, but it would use up our emergency reserves and leave us vulnerable if anything went wrong. What do you think? I asked. She blinked. You're asking my opinion? You're the VP of Business Development. This is literally your job. I think it's risky but worth it. Titan is industry leading. Getting them as a client would open doors we've never even knocked on. Then let's do it. Just like that? Dad trusted you with the business for 15 years. I trust you with this. Something shifted in her expression. The constant defensiveness softened. Thank you. The Titan expansion was brutal. We worked 80-hour weeks, dealt with construction delays, technology failures, and staffing nightmares. Deanna practically lived at the new facility, overseeing every detail. I split my time between both locations, making sure existing clients didn't feel neglected during the transition. One night, around 11 p.m., I found her in the empty new warehouse, sitting on the concrete floor surrounded by blueprints. You okay? I asked. I've been thinking about Dad, about the will reading. I sat down beside her. I was so sure I knew what he wanted, she continued. I thought business was about numbers and strategy and perfect execution. That's what they taught me at Wharton. That's what I saw him do every day. It is about those things, but not just those things. You knew the name of every truck driver's kid. You remembered Raymond's wife's favorite flowers and sent them to her funeral. You noticed when Jorge was stressed about his son's medical bills and helped him figure out the insurance. Dad taught me that. He tried to teach me too. I just wasn't listening. We sat in silence for a while, listening to the night sounds of the empty building. This partnership is working, she said finally. Better than I thought it would. Yeah, it is. I'm still better at strategy than you. Absolutely. And you're still too soft on underperforming employees. Probably, she smiled. But together, we're pretty good. We really are. The Titan launch was a success. The new clients led to more new clients. Within a year, we'd grown the company by 73%. We hired 67 new employees. Revenue hit numbers Dad never saw. But the real victory was smaller. It happened on a random Tuesday when Deanna and I were both in the original warehouse. Raymond was celebrating his 35th anniversary with the company. We'd thrown a party with cake and speeches. Afterward, Raymond pulled us both aside. Your father would be proud, not just of the numbers, but of you two figuring out how to work together. Did he know we would? Deanna asked. He hoped. That's why he made the choices he did. He knew Ren could learn the business side. He wasn't sure you could learn the people side. He looked at Deanna. But you did. That night, Deanna called me. Do you think he was testing both of us? Not just you? I'd wondered the same thing. Maybe. He gave you $500,000 and a sister who needed help. He gave me a company and a sister who knew how to run it. He was smarter than either of us gave him credit for. Way smarter. 2 years after Dad died, we opened our third warehouse. The company employed 213 people. We'd expanded into 4 new states. Deanna had been featured in a business magazine article about innovative distribution models. I'd implemented a profit-sharing program that gave every employee a stake in our success. Mom came to the grand opening. She brought the photo from Dad's desk, the one from the 25th anniversary party. He'd want this in the new building, she said. We hung it in the main office, right where everyone could see it. Below it, we added a new photo from our own celebration. Deanna and me, standing with Raymond, Jorge, and all the people who'd taken a chance on 2 sisters trying to honor their father's legacy. The photo caption read, Halstead Distribution, built on trust, grown through partnership. Sometimes I still get calls from people asking for advice, other daughters who inherited businesses, siblings trying to work together, people who feel unqualified for the roles they've been given. I always tell them the same thing Dad told me. Leadership isn't about having all the answers. It's about knowing who to ask. It's about seeing people, not just numbers. It's about building something bigger than yourself. And then I tell them about Deanna, about how the sister who tried to blackmail me became my most trusted partner, about how Dad's gamble on both of us paid off in ways neither of us expected. Because here's what I learned. Dad didn't leave me the company despite my lack of credentials. He left it to me because I saw the business as people first. But he gave Deanna the resources and the kick in the pants to learn that same lesson. He was teaching us both, right up until the end. Last week, Deanna and I were reviewing a major acquisition proposal. We disagreed on almost every detail. The argument got heated. At one point, she said, "This is exactly why Dad should have left the company to someone with actual business training." I didn't get defensive. Instead, I said, "You're right. Good thing he left it to both of us." She laughed. "When did you get so smart?" I had a good teacher. He showed me that the strongest businesses aren't run by one perfect person. They're built by people who complement each other's weaknesses. We compromised on the acquisition, her financial modeling with my relationship management, her strategy with my understanding of how it would affect our people. The deal closed last month. It was the biggest in company history. But that's not the story I'm proudest of. The story I'm proudest of is simpler. It's about Jorge's daughter's wedding, where Deanna and I both gave toasts and made him cry. It's about Raymond's retirement party, where he said we'd become the daughters he never had. It's about Carla, the night shift cleaner, whose grandson just started working in our warehouse because he grew up hearing about the Halstead sisters who cared about their people. It's about Mom, who keeps Dad's letter in her purse and reads it sometimes when she thinks no one's watching. It's about Deanna texting me last Tuesday. "Remember when I called you too stupid to run the business? I was the stupid one." And it's about me, sitting in Dad's office late at night, looking at the photo wall we've created, pictures of our team, our clients, our growth, evidence that Dad's gamble paid off. Not because I was the perfect choice, not because Deanna learned to be less ruthless, but because he knew we'd figure it out together. And that's exactly what we did. 3 years after the will reading, I sat in the same lawyer's office with Mitchell. Deanna was there too. We were updating our own wills. In the event of my death, I said, I leave my shares in Halstead Distribution to my sister, Deanna Halstead. Mitchell raised an eyebrow. You're certain? Given your complicated history? Completely certain, I said. Deanna cleared her throat. And I'm leaving my shares to Ren. So no matter what happens, Mitchell said slowly, the company stays whole. That's what Dad wanted, Deanna said. He just knew we had to get there ourselves. We walked out of that office together. Not as competitors, not as the smart one and the stupid one, but as partners, sisters, co-owners of something bigger than either of us alone. My phone buzzed. A text from Raymond. New client just called. They heard about us from Titan. Want to set up a meeting? I showed it to Deanna. She smiled. I'll run the numbers. You handle the relationship. Perfect. Because that's what we'd become. Not perfect individually, but perfect together. And somewhere, I think Dad was smiling. The business kept growing. By year 4, we'd hired 300 employees and opened warehouses in 7 states. Deanna's strategic planning and my operational management had created something neither of us could have built alone. But the real measure of success wasn't the revenue or the expansion. It was the culture we'd created. Every new hire went through orientation where we told them Dad's story, not the sanitized version about a successful businessman. The real version about a man who valued people over profit, who trusted his instincts over conventional wisdom, who believed his daughters could be more together than they were apart. We implemented programs Dad never had time for. Tuition assistance for employees' kids, mental health days, profit sharing that actually meant something. We promoted from within whenever possible. Jorge became a warehouse manager. Carla's grandson, Tobias, was being trained for logistics coordination. The industry noticed. We won awards, got written up in trade publications. Competitors tried to poach our talent, but most people stayed. It's different here, one driver told a reporter. They know your name. They care if you're okay. That quote ended up on our recruiting materials. Not everyone was happy with our approach. At an industry conference, a CEO from a competing firm cornered me at the bar. You're setting a dangerous precedent, he said. All this hand-holding, these benefits, this touchy-feely management, it's not sustainable. We've grown 180% in 4 years, I replied. Seems pretty sustainable. Wait until you hit a rough patch, when you have to make hard decisions. That's when your sister's MBA will matter more than your warehouse buddies. 2 months later, we hit that rough patch. A major client went bankrupt, owing us $1.7 million. A supplier breach delayed shipments across the Midwest. And our largest competitor started a price war we couldn't match without bleeding money. The board called an emergency meeting. They wanted cost cuts, layoffs, standard business practice, one member said. Deanna presented 3 different scenarios, each involving staff reductions. Her analysis was thorough, her recommendations sound. On paper, it made perfect sense. Then I presented an alternative. We'd renegotiate supplier contracts, defer our own salaries temporarily, and ask senior staff to take 15% pay cuts in exchange for additional equity. No layoffs. That's financial suicide, a board member said. That's leadership, Raymond countered. He'd been quiet until then. You want to know why this company succeeds? Because people here know they matter. You start laying folks off at the first sign of trouble, you lose that. The vote was close. 6-5 in favor of my plan. For 3 months, Deanna and I didn't take salaries. Senior staff took their pay cuts. We worked 16-hour days, personally calling clients to secure payment plans, renegotiating every contract we could touch. The night shift guys started a betting pool on whether we'd make it. According to Jorge, most bet against us. Then Titan Manufacturing called. They'd been watching our approach, decided they wanted to consolidate all their U.S. distribution through us. The contract was worth $4, $2 million annually. When I told the crew, someone actually cried. It was Tobias, Carla's grandson. My abuela worked 3 jobs before this place, he said. Now she's only working here, has health insurance, and is sending me to night school. I thought it was over. We restored everyone's full pay, gave bonuses, hired 15 more people. At the next board meeting, the member who'd called my plan financial suicide stood up. I owe you an apology, both of you. I thought loyalty was naive. Turns out it's just smart business done right. But the real validation came from Deanna. We were in my office late one night reviewing quarterly reports. She suddenly put down her pen. I need to tell you something. Okay. When the bankruptcy hit and we were hemorrhaging money, I drafted a proposal to the board. My own version of staff cuts. I was going to go around you. Present it as the only viable option. My chest tightened. What stopped you? I went to visit Dad's grave, told him about the financial crisis, asked him what to do. She laughed softly. Obviously, he didn't answer. But sitting there, I remembered something. When I was 12, his biggest client left for a competitor offering lower rates. Everyone said he should slash costs to compete. He refused. Said he'd rather lose the business than lose his principles. What happened? He found new clients who valued quality over price. Took 2 years, but he rebuilt stronger than before. She looked at me. You were doing exactly what he would have done. And I almost sabotaged it because I was scared. But you didn't. I didn't. Because for the first time, I trusted that maybe you knew something I didn't. We sat there. 2 sisters who'd spent their lives competing, finally understanding that we were on the same team. The company's 5th anniversary under our leadership fell on the same day as Dad's birthday. We held a memorial service at the original warehouse, inviting everyone from the past 5 years. Over 400 people showed up. Mom spoke first. She told stories about Dad I'd never heard. How he used to sneak extra pay into struggling employees' checks. How he'd personally driven truck routes when drivers called in sick. How he'd mortgaged their house 3 times to keep the business afloat during rough years. He never wanted his daughters to inherit a company, she said. He wanted you to inherit his values. And watching you two over these past 5 years, I think you did. Raymond spoke next. Then Jorge. Then a parade of employees, clients, and community members, all sharing stories about how Halstead distribution had impacted their lives. When it was my turn, I couldn't speak at first. I looked at Deanna. She nodded, understanding. Dad left us more than a business, I finally said. He left us a test. Could we see past our own egos? Could we work together despite our differences? Could we build something bigger than our individual ambitions? I paused. I think we passed. The crowd applauded, but I wasn't finished. But the test wasn't just for us. It was for everyone in this room. Would you give 2 fighting sisters a chance? Would you trust us when we made mistakes? Would you believe in a company that put people before profit? I looked around at all the faces. Some I'd known for years, others relatively new. You did, and that's why we're here. After the service, Deanna and I stood by Dad's photo in the office. Someone had placed fresh flowers beneath it. Do you think he knew? She asked. When he wrote that will, do you think he knew we'd figure this out? I think he hoped, but he couldn't guarantee it. That's what made it a risk. Best risk he ever took. Second best, I corrected. The first was starting this company with nothing but a truck and a dream. She smiled. Fair point. My phone buzzed. Another text from Raymond. That reporter from Business Today is here. Says they're doing a feature on family businesses that actually work. Want to interview both of you. We looked at each other. Together? Deanna asked. Always. The interview ran 2 weeks later. Front page of the magazine. The headline read, The Halstead Sisters. How conflict became collaboration. They asked the obvious question. What's your secret? Deanna answered first. We stopped trying to be dad and started trying to be ourselves. Together. I added. And we remembered that business is about people. The numbers matter, but they're not the point. The people are the point. The article quoted Raymond, Jorge, and a dozen other employees. It mentioned our profit sharing, our retention rates, our growth, but mostly it talked about culture. About a company where the CEO knew everyone's name, where the VP of Business Development personally mentored new hires, where success was measured not just in revenue, but in lives changed. Competitor CEOs called it fluffy. Industry analysts called it unsustainable. Our employees called it home. 6 months later, we got an offer. A major corporation wanted to buy Halstead Distribution for $47 million. It was more money than I'd ever imagined, more than enough to retire, travel, do whatever we wanted. The board was split. Half wanted to sell, half wanted to keep growing. Deanna and I took a week to discuss it. We looked at the numbers from every angle. We talked to Mom. We visited Dad's grave. Finally, we called a company-wide meeting. All 300-plus employees gathered in the main warehouse. The tension was thick. Everyone knew what was being discussed. We've received an offer to sell the company, I began. It's a lot of money, life-changing money. People shifted nervously. Jorge gripped his coffee cup so hard I thought it might break. But we've decided to turn it down, Deanna said. The room erupted. Cheers, applause, a few people crying. This company isn't about money, I continued when the noise died down. It never has been. Dad didn't build this place to get rich. He built it to create something that mattered, to give people good jobs, fair treatment, and a chance to build better lives. We're not interested in cashing out, Deanna added. We're interested in building something that lasts. Something our kids might run someday. Something that honors what Dad started. Raymond stood up. 3 cheers for the Halstead sisters. The warehouse shook with the sound. That night, Mom called. Your father would be so proud. You think so? I know so. The offer money would have tempted him, but he never could have taken it. This company was his heart. It's ours now, too. I see that. And it's beautiful. Year 6 brought new challenges. A recession hit. Shipping costs doubled. Client budgets tightened. We had to get creative. Deanna developed a new pricing model that kept us competitive without sacrificing service. I worked with our people to find efficiency improvements that didn't mean cutting jobs. We weathered the storm, though barely. One particularly bad month, I found myself in the warehouse at 3 a.m., unable to sleep. Raymond was there too, doing inventory. Couldn't sleep either, he asked. Too much on my mind. Your father used to do this. Come in at weird hours when things were tough. Said being around the work helped him think. We walked the aisles together, past pallets and forklifts and the smell of cardboard and grease. Raymond, can I ask you something? Anything. Was Dad ever this scared? He stopped walking, terrified, especially in the early years. He had a wife, 2 little girls, employees depending on him. The pressure was enormous. How did he handle it? He remembered why he started. Not to get rich, not to build an empire, but to create something good, something that helped people. When he kept that front and center, the decisions got easier, even when they were hard, especially when they were hard. The recession lasted 18 months. We came out smaller but stronger. Some clients didn't make it through. Some contracts had to be renegotiated at lower rates. But we kept our people employed. We maintained our standards. We survived. And when the economy recovered, we were positioned perfectly. Clients who'd seen us stick by our principles through tough times became fiercely loyal. They referred others. Our reputation as a company that cared spread. By year 7, we'd not only recovered, but exceeded our pre-recession numbers. At that year's anniversary celebration, Deanna pulled me aside. I have something for you, she said, handing me an envelope. Inside was a legal document transferring 5% of her ownership to our employees' profit-sharing trust. I'm doing the same, I said, showing her my matching document. We thought of it independently, both of us realizing that the people who'd helped us succeed deserved more than bonuses. They deserved ownership. Dad would love this, Deanna said. He'd probably say we should have done it years ago. Definitely. We presented the news at the company meeting. The math worked out to about 2% ownership for employees who'd been there 5 years, scaling up with tenure. Raymond, who'd been there 37 years now, would own nearly 8% when he retired. People didn't know how to react at first. Employee ownership wasn't common in our industry. Some seemed suspicious, others confused. "What's the catch?" Tobias asked. "No catch," I said. "You've all sacrificed for this company, taken pay cuts during the recession, worked overtime during the expansion, put up with 2 fighting sisters learning how to run a business. You've earned this." Jorge stood up. "This means when the company does well, we do well?" "Exactly," Deanna said. "And when it does poorly, you already take that risk by working here. This just means you share in the upside too." The applause started slowly, then built into something like thunder. Over the next few months, something shifted in the culture. People started suggesting improvements more actively, cost-saving measures, efficiency tweaks, new client prospects. Everyone had skin in the game now, and it showed. Revenue jumped 23% that year. Not because we changed our business model, but because 300+ people started acting like owners instead of employees. Because that's what they were. Year 8 started with a crisis. Deanna collapsed at work, rushed to the hospital. Brain aneurysm. She was in surgery for 11 hours. I sat in the waiting room with Mom, terrified. We'd spent so many years fighting, then so many years building. The idea of losing her now felt impossible. When she finally woke up 3 days later, her first words were, "How's the quarterly report looking?" I laughed and cried at the same time. "We'll manage. You just focus on getting better. The Titan contract renewal is handled. Raymond is covering your meetings. I'm reviewing the proposals. Everyone's stepping up." She looked relieved and slightly annoyed. "You don't need me. We absolutely need you. But we can manage for a while. Dad built systems that don't depend on any one person. We've done the same." Her recovery took 4 months. During that time, I learned to handle aspects of the business I'd always left to her. Financial modeling, strategic planning, contract negotiations. It was terrifying, but our people stepped up. Patricia from accounting practically became my shadow, teaching me what Deanna had taught her. Jorge took on additional responsibilities. Even Mom helped, reviewing proposals and offering perspective. When Deanna finally came back, the company was running smoothly, better than smoothly. "I'm not sure how to feel about this," she admitted during our first planning meeting. "Proud that it worked. Insulted that you didn't need me. We needed you every day you were gone. But you'd built things well enough that they could run without you for a while. Same way Dad built things to survive without him. I want to change my role," she said suddenly. "What do you mean?" "I'm tired of 80-hour weeks. I'm 43 years old and I almost died. I want to work less, live more, travel, maybe have a life outside this place." My heart sank. "You want to leave?" "No. I want to be less essential. I want to build redundancy into my role the way you have, train others, delegate more, create space for new leaders." "That's actually brilliant." Over the next year, we restructured leadership, promoted 3 people to VP positions, created clear succession plans, built in redundancies so no single person was irreplaceable. It was counterintuitive. Most companies hoard power at the top. We were deliberately distributing it. But it worked. The new VPs brought fresh perspectives. They caught mistakes we'd been making for years. They suggested innovations we'd never considered. Patricia became VP of Finance. Jorge became VP of Operations. A newer hire, Nia, became VP of Client Relations. Deanna and I stepped back into more strategic roles. We still made major decisions, but daily operations ran without us. This is what Dad wanted, I realized during a planning retreat. Not just for us to run the company, but to build something that outlasted us. "We're not dead yet," Deanna joked. "You almost were." Fair point. Year 9 brought an unexpected visitor. A woman in her 30s showed up asking for me. She introduced herself as Claire, Dad's daughter from a relationship before he met Mom. The world tilted. "I have documentation," she said, showing me a birth certificate, photos, DNA test results. "I'm not here for money. I just wanted to meet my half-sisters." Mom confirmed it. Dad had told her years ago about a daughter from his early 20s. They'd lost contact when Claire's mother moved across the country. He'd tried to find them but never could. Deanna and I met with Claire over coffee. She looked like Dad. Same eyes, same stubborn chin. "I don't want anything from the company," she said immediately. "I have my own life, my own career. After my mother died, I found letters he'd written, trying to find us. I wanted to know who he was." We spent hours talking, sharing stories, showing her photos, taking her to the warehouse, to Dad's grave, to the house where we grew up. "He seems like he was a good man," she said. "He was," Deanna replied. "Complicated, stubborn, brilliant, but good. Do you think he would have wanted to know me?" "Without question," I said. Family meant everything to him. Claire visited often after that. She didn't work for the company, but she became part of our lives. Another sister, another connection to Dad. It felt like a gift he'd left us, years after his death. Year 10 arrived faster than I expected. A decade of running Halstead distribution, a decade of partnership with Deanna, a decade of growth, struggles, and successes. We threw a massive celebration. Current employees, retired workers, clients, community partners. Over 700 people showed up. Raymond, now 79 but still consulting part-time, gave a toast. 10 years ago, many of us doubted these 2 young women could run this company. We were fools. They didn't just run it. They transformed it. Made it better, stronger, more human than it's ever been. Mom spoke too, crying through most of it. "My husband built something remarkable, but my daughters made it extraordinary." When it was my turn, I looked out at all those faces, people whose lives intersected with ours through this business. Dad's letter said leadership is about who workers will follow when things get hard, I began. "These past 10 years have been hard sometimes, really hard, but we made it because you followed. You believed, You took chances on two sisters who barely knew what they were doing. Deanna stood beside me. We're not the same people we were 10 years ago. This company changed us, made us better, taught us that success isn't about being perfect. It's about being willing to learn, to adapt, to trust others. So thank you, I said, for trusting us when we didn't trust each other, for building this with us, for becoming not just employees or colleagues, but family. The applause was deafening. Later, Deanna and I stood by Dad's photo, now joined by other photos documenting our decade together. Think he's watching, she asked. I think he's smiling, even though we screwed up half the time. Especially because of that. He didn't want perfect daughters. He wanted real ones. We're definitely real. Understatement? My phone buzzed. A text from our newest VP. Major prospect just called. Wants to tour facilities next week. Could be our biggest client yet. I showed Deanna. You handle it, she said. I'm going to take next week off. Travel with my partner. Good. You should. You should too. When's the last time you took a real vacation? Define real. See, that's the problem. We built this company to be about life, not just work. We should live that way too. She was right. Over the next year, I took more time off. Traveled, dated, remembered there was a world outside warehouses and distribution routes. The company didn't collapse. In fact, it thrived. Our leadership team was strong enough now that Deanna and I could step away without everything falling apart. That was the real success. Not the revenue numbers or the expansion, but building something sustainable. Something that didn't require us to sacrifice our entire lives. Year 11 brought a different kind of challenge. A whistleblower exposed widespread fraud at our largest competitor. Federal investigations revealed they'd been manipulating contracts, bribing officials, and exploiting workers for years. Their clients fled. Many came to us. Within 3 months, we had more business than we could handle. We had to turn down contracts, refer them to other companies. We could hire aggressively, Deanna suggested. Seize this moment. Double our size. Or we could grow sustainably, I countered. Keep our culture intact. Take on what we can handle well rather than everything we can grab. We chose sustainable growth, added 40 new employees over 6 months instead of 200 immediately, maintained our standards, kept our culture. Some board members thought we were crazy. You're leaving money on the table, one said. We're leaving chaos on the table, Deanna replied. There's a difference. They were right about the money. We could have doubled revenue overnight, but we would have lost what made us special, the personal relationships, the attention to detail, the culture of care. Instead, we grew at 30% annually for 3 years, controlled, intentional, sustainable, and we maintained who we were. Year 14, Mom got sick, cancer, advanced. The doctors gave her maybe 6 months. Deanna and I rearranged everything to spend time with her. Our VPs handled daily operations. We worked part-time, mostly from Mom's house. I'm so proud of you both, she said one afternoon, not just for the business, for becoming friends. We're more than friends, Deanna said. We're partners. We're sisters, I added. Finally, Mom smiled. She held on for 8 months, longer than predicted, long enough to see us negotiate the biggest contract in company history, long enough to watch Claire become a regular part of our family, long enough to tell us stories about Dad we'd never heard. On her last day, she called us both to her bedside. Promise me something, she said. Anything, we both answered. Don't let this company consume you like it did your father. He loved it, but he missed too much of life. You've built something wonderful, but don't forget to live. We promise, I said, and take care of each other. You're all each other has now. We will, Deanna promised. She died that night peacefully, with both of us holding her hands. The funeral was massive. Hundreds of people, employees, clients, community members, all there to honor a woman who'd supported Dad's dream, then supported ours. Raymond spoke. She was the steady force behind 2 generations of Halsteads. The wisdom when stubbornness took over, the grace when business got tough. We'll miss her terribly. We buried her next to Dad, together again. That loss changed us, made us realize how precious time was, how quickly life moved. Deanna scaled back further, started working 3 days a week, spent more time with her partner, traveled, lived. I did the same. Started dating seriously for the first time in years. Took up painting, learned to prioritize life over work. The company continued thriving. Our leadership team was strong. Our culture was embedded. Our systems worked. We'd built something that could outlast us. Year 15 arrived with shocking news. Deanna was pregnant, at 47, against all odds. I thought it was menopause. She laughed. Nope, baby. She was terrified and ecstatic. She'd never planned on kids. Now she was having one. What are you going to do about work? I asked. Take real maternity leave, like 6 months, maybe a year. I want to be present for this. The company will be here when you get back. I know. That's what makes this possible. Her daughter, Elaine, was born healthy and perfect. Deanna disappeared into motherhood completely. Stopped checking emails. Stopped calling into meetings. Just focused on her baby. I visited often, watching my sister transform into someone softer, more patient, more present. Dad would have loved being a grandfather, she said one afternoon while feeding Elaine. He would have spoiled her rotten. Absolutely. You're going to be a great mom. I have no idea what I'm doing. Same way we had no idea how to run a business, but we figured it out. Together, she said. Always together. When Deanna came back after 14 months, she was different. Still brilliant, still strategic, but gentler, more willing to delegate, more focused on work-life balance. I want Elaine to have what we didn't, she said. Parents who are actually present, who show up for school events and bedtime stories, who don't sacrifice everything for business. Dad did the best he could. I know, but we can do better. We restructured again, created true flexibility for all employees, unlimited parental leave, remote work options, mental health support, programs that let people be full humans, not just workers. It cost money, some efficiency, but what we gained was invaluable. Loyalty, dedication, people who brought their whole selves to work because they knew we valued their whole lives. Year 17, I met someone, Finn, an artist with no connection to the business world. He thought distribution logistics was boring until I explained how it connected farmers to grocery stores, manufacturers to hospitals, products to people who needed them. It's not about moving boxes, I said. It's about making sure communities have what they need. When you put it that way, it's actually beautiful, he said. We got married in a small ceremony. Raymond walked me down the aisle. Deanna was my maid of honor. Claire gave a reading. Elaine was the flower girl. Our vows included a promise to not let work consume us, to build a life, not just a career. Finn understood. He'd seen what the business cost and what it gave. He supported both. Year 18, we opened our 10th warehouse. Employed over 600 people across 12 states. Revenue hit $200 million annually, but numbers weren't the point anymore. The point was Jorge's grandson, now working alongside him. The point was Raymond's 80th birthday party held in the original warehouse. The point was Tobias, now a logistics manager, teaching new hires the Halstead way. The point was culture, legacy, impact. At the anniversary celebration, I looked around the room. So many faces I'd known for years. So many lives intersecting through this business Dad had built. Deanna stood next to me, Elaine on her hip. We did it, she said quietly. Did what? What Dad hoped we would. Built something that matters. Something good. We're not done yet. No, but we're doing it right. Someone asked for a speech. I handed the microphone to Deanna. 18 years ago, she began. I thought I deserved this company. Thought I'd earned it through degrees and experience. I was wrong. Not because I didn't deserve it, but because deserving isn't the point. She looked at me. Dad gave this company to Ren because he knew what I had to learn. That business isn't about being the smartest or most qualified. It's about building something that uplifts people, that creates opportunity, that makes the world slightly better. We've built that together, I added. Not because we were perfect partners, but because we learned to trust each other, to value our different strengths. To remember that family, real family, means showing up even when it's hard. Later, alone in Dad's office, Deanna and I looked at the photo wall. 18 years of moments, successes and failures, growth and learning. Think he knew? Deanna asked. When he wrote that will, did he know it would turn out like this? He hoped. That's all any parent can do. Hope their kids figure it out. We figured it out, eventually. Better late than never. My phone buzzed. Finn texting that dinner was ready. Deanna's phone chimed, her partner asking when she'd be home. We looked at each other and smiled. Go, I said. Elaine needs her mom. Finn needs you too. We walked out together, turned off the lights, left the company in capable hands, because that was the real lesson. The business didn't need us every second of every day. We'd built something sustainable, something that could thrive with or without us. We'd honored Dad's legacy not by sacrificing everything for the company, but by building a company that let people live full lives, including us. As I drove home, I thought about that will reading 18 years ago, the shock on Deanna's face, my own terror at inheriting something I felt completely unqualified to run. Dad had gambled on both of us, given each of us exactly what we needed to grow. Me, the company, and the confidence to lead. Deanna, the humility and the motivation to learn what really mattered. Together, we'd become something neither of us could have been alone, and that, I realized, was always the point. Not the revenue numbers, not the expansion or the awards or the industry recognition, but two sisters learning to work together, to trust each other, to build something that honored their father while becoming fully themselves. I pulled into my driveway. Finn was in the window waving. Inside was dinner, conversation, laughter, a life outside the business. Tomorrow, I'd go back, work with brilliant people, solve complex problems, build on what we'd created. But tonight was for living, for remembering that Dad gave me the company. But he gave me something more important. He gave me a sister who challenged me to be better, a family that chose to come together despite everything, a purpose that extended beyond myself. And in the end, that was the greatest inheritance of all.